I hope you guys are ready to have your best tomato year ever, because that's what's gonna happen after watching this video. I've been growing tomatoes for 25 years and I know a secret, and that is the success of your tomatoes starts right now with the way you sow the seed. Stick around to the end because I'm gonna show you a hack to supercharge your seedling when you plant it out for maximum growth and production throughout the summer. By the way, I'm Brian with Next Level Gardening, and if you could let me know in the comments where you're from and how many years you've been growing tomatoes, and if it's your first year, definitely let us know that. Now let's get growing. So first let's talk about what we're gonna sow the seeds in, and that would be one of these party cups. Could be any color, any brand. You want them to be the 18-ounce size though, that's important. So if you have a party, collect all the cups and reuse them. These things will last for years. The only thing we need to do to the solo cup is to cut about 1 inch tall triangles. Just like that. About 3 will do. Now the growing medium I'm using is nothing fancy. It's just some seed starting mix or indoor potting mix. You want to pre-moisten it, and you want it to be about like a wrung out sponge, so when you squeeze it, you might get a few drips, but that's about it. You don't want water to come pouring out. Now the reason I say indoor potting mix or seed starting mix is because typically those are sterilized. Why is that important? If you've ever grown seeds indoors and had little flying fungus gnats all over the place, probably came from your soil. And if you get sterilized soil, the eggs won't be in there. Not saying they won't find it later, but at least you're starting off on the right foot. I'm also going to be putting vermiculite over the top of the potting soil once we've sowed our seeds. This is just another layer of protection against fungus gnats and also a fungal disease called damping off. But that's optional. All right, so we're going to fill our cups about halfway full. You don't have to really pack it down, just a little bit, but about halfway full, and that's it. Now we're going to put 2 seeds right there in the cup. Now you're going to cover them up with about 1/4 inch of seed starting mix, or like I said, I'm using vermiculite. Then we're just going to water it just enough to wet the vermiculite, and what that's going to do is that's going to pull that seed right into intimate contact with the potting soil. Now the reason I sowed 2 seeds in here is one is an insurance policy. So you can always make sure you got at least 1 seedling coming up in each cup. Now at this point, you can either leave them like this, or you can do the double cup method. I tried the double cup method last year as an experiment, and I really thought it gave me good results. So we need another cup of the same size, either colored like this one or clear. You'll also need some marbles. You can get these at the Dollar Tree and they'll last you forever. If you have everything but the marble and you want to get this started today, you can just use a small pebble the same size as a marble. Now I'm going to use the clear cup. I'll tell you why that's great in a minute. All right, you got your empty cup and your planted cup. We're going to drop a marble in the clear one and place the planted cup inside. Now that marble holds it a bit off of the bottom of the cup. Now some people plant in the clear cup so they can lift it out and they can see the root development. We're not growing these in here for very long, just a few weeks, so I'm not really concerned about the root development. I'm more concerned about seeing through this cup and how much water is in there. Eventually you'll also see roots coming out of the bottom of the drainage holes, so you'll be able to see the roots no matter what. But being able to see the water level lets you know if it needs to be watered or not. I got this idea from Gardener Scott about the clear cup on the outside, and I think it's brilliant because seeds and seedlings are most often killed by underwatering or overwatering. So being able to see right in there lets you know if you're doing it right. If you see the water level and it's touching the red cup at the bottom, you don't need to water. It may look dry on top, which is okay. The best place for the water level to be is about halfway up that triangle. I don't know if you can see that. That allows the water to wick up through this soil, but you don't want it above that triangle. That means you're going to flood your seeds. So about 1/2 inch of water or halfway up that triangle is the sweet spot, but I would rather there be just a few drops in this cup than overfilled. So at this point, whichever way you go, 1 cup or 2, and if you do 1 cup, you'll probably want to put all these in a tray so that the water doesn't go everywhere. But again, make sure that water in the tray only comes up halfway on these triangles. The next thing we need to do is create the perfect growing environment. And we start that with humidity. You want to be able to keep the moisture inside and not let the top dry out, because remember, your seed is only a quarter to an eighth of an inch deep. So we're going to take a regular little sandwich bag here and just slip it right over the top of these cups, just like that. We're going to leave these on until you can look in there and see that the seedling is up. And as soon as that seedling is up, take off the bag, save this for next time. You don't want to leave the bag on there after the seed is up and growing, because you'll start to get algae growth and you'll probably get that disease damping off like I told you. A lot of funguses can thrive in that environment. For the rest of this, we need to take these inside the garage where I have my seed starting set up so I can walk you through that. By the way, don't forget to label your plants. All right, we've got humidity with our baggie, and now we need warmth. Now, being indoors could be enough if you like your heater set on high. We do not, plus this is in the garage. Tomatoes germinate best at about 75 degrees Fahrenheit, 21 Celsius. Now, to get this temperature, I use a heat mat, and I recommend one with a thermostat. That way you can set the temperature and not have to worry about it. And they're actually pretty affordable. Now, you can also sit them above or on top of a warm appliance like a refrigerator. If you have a radiator with a windowsill or a shelf above it, that can work too. With bottom heat, tomatoes can germinate in about 4 days. It's really fast. Now, light is not needed for tomato seed germination. However, as soon as that seedling pops its little head out of the soil, it needs light ASAP. There's only so much energy in that seed, and now it needs to get it from the sun. So keep a close eye on them, and once they have germinated, you need to either move them into a very sunny window, and when I say sunny window, it only works if you have at least 6 to 8 hours of direct sunlight coming in that window. Very few have that. If you do, you're lucky. If you don't, you're going to have to mimic that sunlight with a grow light. Now, don't get scared. This is where most new gardeners get turned off and scared. I'm going to simplify it and show you 3 different kinds of lights you can use depending on your budget. The cheapest way would be to use one of these clip-on lights. You can also use a fluorescent tube shop light, or you can use a professional grade grow light. I'll put a link to this one as well as any other products that I use down in the video description. There are discounts associated with some of them, but for the other two, for the silver clip-on and the shop light, this would be the cheapest way unless you need a bunch of them. But for both this kind and the shop light fluorescent tube kind, you do not need to spend extra money on a package light that says grow light. Those are going to be more expensive every time. Go to Home Depot, Lowe's, wherever has a good selection of regular light bulbs, and you're looking for specific numbers on the packages. You want to look for lumens and Kelvin. Lumens is just how bright a light is, the intensity of the light. And you're looking for between 1,500 and 2,000 lumens. Kelvin is the temperature of the light, not the actual heat that it puts off, but the color temperature. You want it to mimic the sun. So on the package, you're looking for something that says daylight or 4,500 to 6,500 Kelvin. That's all you need to look for. And it can be a bulb, it could be a long tube, it could be LED, it could be whatever they have instead of LED now, maybe nothing. With a professional grow light like this, the grow light can actually be 12, 18 inches or more above the plants because it has an intensity that the other two just can't mimic. What's great about that is it can cover a large area. With the other two, you need to keep the actual light bulb 2 to 3 inches above the leaves of the plant at all times. So you need to either raise those lights as the plants grow or lower the plants away from the light as they grow. And you can do that by putting the trays or whatever you're growing in up on books or bricks and just kind of remove those a little at a time to allow the plants room between the light and the tray. So you really got to figure out how big of an area you have and which of these bulbs would actually be the best value for you. If you notice your seedlings stretching, I'll put a picture up right here. That's what you don't want to see. That means they're really struggling to get enough light and probably not getting enough. Now, in most seedlings, once they get to that stage, you're not going to be able to fix them. Tomatoes you have a little more leeway on, which you'll find out why in a minute. But you really got to get the plants close enough to whatever type of light that you have. Now, no matter what light choice you make, the light needs to stay on 16 hours and off for 8 in a 24-hour period. Now, I personally run mine all night long because the electricity is cheaper then. So one more thing to get the environment perfect, and that would be this old fan right here. Nothing fancy, but this works wonders for your seedlings. They are here in a protected environment, and in a few weeks, they're going to be expected to go out into the cruel world of the garden and deal with a lot of issues out there, and you need them to be as strong as they can be. So the first thing this is going to do is make them strong. It's going to give them a workout. You're going to see the plants kind of swaying back and forth whenever it needs to be an oscillating fan, so it can go back and forth, and the plants will, move with that breeze, and that's going to get them stronger. The second thing it's going to do is keep the top of the potting mix dry, and that's going to cut way down on fungal issues and fungus gnats. So this is an optional thing, but if you've got an old fan laying around, well worth putting it in this area. All right, so we've got the environment perfect, the light that we need to have them grow, and now we've sowed 2 seeds into each of the cups. If both of those come up, you want to wait until they have their true leaves. The first pair of leaves that come up are the seed leaves, and the second pair are the real true leaves. They'll look like a tomato leaf. They'll look different. So once they have their first set, you pick the strongest one and you clip the weakest one off at the stem. So you have 1 per cup. Now, if you're not heartless, you can save both. Gently take them out of the cup and tease those roots apart and give them their own separate cups. Once they have their first set of true leaves, you can begin to fertilize them. Every 2 weeks, you're going to want to mix up a liquid organic fertilizer half strength. I use Neptune's Harvest Tomato and Veg. And it's okay to get them on the leaves. You're feeding them through the leaves that way. Make sure you check the water level. If it goes up too much, give it a chance to soak in. Still too much, you can dump it out till it's about halfway up that triangle. If you're growing them in a tray instead of cups, lift them up out of the tray and make sure that the half the triangle is still out of the water. Anything you pour out of the cup or the tray, save that. That's nutrient-rich water, and water with it again next time. All right, we're fast forwarding a few weeks to where the plant is now above the rim of the cup. This is where we're going to turn a regular seedling into a supercharged seedling. And that goes back to the question, why did we only fill this cup halfway in the very beginning? Tomatoes are one of the few plants that actually grow roots anywhere their stem touches the soil. And the more roots that you can develop, the better. And the sooner you get them to develop those roots, the healthier and more robust the plant's going to be when it's planted in the garden. A more robust plant is going to have the ability to fight off disease and pests and produce more fruit. So we're going to take some more potting soil and we're going to fill up all the way around that stem, leaving about a ½ inch of space at the top just for watering. And you may be covering up leaves that are on the plant. It doesn't matter. That's not going to hurt anything in any way. Now you've tucked your plant in all the way up its neck, and more roots are going to develop in the top section of this cup. Another great reason to do it this way is tomatoes have 2 types of roots. They've got feeder roots and they've got water roots. The water roots go deep to get water, and the feeder roots are in the top section of the soil, and they collect food from around the top. So generally in the wild, it would be rotting leaves and things like that. So throughout this process, we're developing more and more leaves toward the top of the soil. Now, in just a couple more weeks, your plant is going to be getting nice and tall, nice thick stem. You might even see some flowers forming. That means it's ready to go outside as long as you're past your last frost date. So you need to Google your zip code, town, wherever you are, and last frost date and find out when the average last frost date is for your area. You don't want to put these out if there's still a chance of frost. In fact, you really would like it to be in the upper 40s at night to put these out, and that would be the coldest. If you can get it in the low 50s, even better. So remember when I said stick around to the end of the video, I was going to show you a hack to supercharge this even more when we plant it out in the garden? This guy's ready, so let's go out in the garden and take care of business. All right, so here we are in the garden. Bella's here to help. So always wanting to take advantage of tomatoes being able to grow roots along their stem. When you plant your tomato out, you want to dig a deep hole, as deep as you can, to bury as much stem as you can. Now you have to leave some out of the ground, and you can go ahead and take off these lower leaves or not, it doesn't matter. I also like to take off the first truss of flowers, so just pinch those off. That puts more energy into the actual root and stem development rather than fruit right now. So you want to dig as deep a hole as possible, maybe here even, that would be good. In this bed, I have gopher issues, and so I have hardware cloth or gopher netting on the bottom. So this bed's really only about 6 inches deep. Now there's native soil underneath, so the roots can still go deeper than that, but planting wise, that's as deep as I can go. If you're in a similar situation, or maybe you're planting in a container, dig a trench as long as you need it to be to lay this root ball and the stem into the hole. Then we're gonna pull that out, lay it down in here, and fill in around it gently, pulling the stem up at an angle. It could be 45, it doesn't have to be at a 90-degree angle. You don't want to do that, it's probably gonna break the stem. Once the stem is half buried, it's a great time to add a sprinkle of organic granulated fertilizer. And it'll probably be aiming that way, but it'll straighten itself out once it's in the sun a couple days. Now, if you want to see the next step, hit subscribe right here. When I get to that point, I'm going to put out another video and keep putting out videos to follow the progress and what you should be doing all season long. If you want to skip ahead though, click this video right here. It's an entire growing guide. It's got 12 million views at this point. I'll see you guys next time.